When I discovered my grandson's amazing gift, my abandoned daughter revealed a shocking secret. Harold sat cross-legged on the floor of his dimly lit attic, surrounded by boxes filled with remnants of a lifelong past. Dust motes danced in beams of fading sunlight, settling on old photographs, children's drawings, and even a cracked baseball bat. The silence was deafening, punctuated only by the occasional creak of the aging house. He reached for an old cassette tape, labeled Lullabies, a haunting reminder of the warmth his late wife brought into their home. Today, it felt like he was searching for answers buried in the past rather than reminiscing. The moment he pressed play, a melody filled the air, bittersweet and tender. Ethan's voice, lilting with an innocence that so consumed Harold, vibrated against the walls of the attic. The boy's music flowed into the depths of Harold's heart, weaving through the sorrow and loneliness, igniting a flicker of hope within him. But alongside that flicker came a familiar pang, a reminder of the hurt caused by his estrangement from Lily. Could he dare to reach out, to disrupt the silence that had painfully stretched between them for too long? He surprised himself as he reached for the phone later that day. His hands trembled, his heart racing as he dialed Lily's number. Each ring seemed to echo his hesitation, pushing back against the walls he had built. What if she was still angry? What if everything he said fell on deaf ears? But Ethan's music still played in his mind, a reminder that vulnerability might lead to something more than ghosts of regret. When Lily answered, surprise laced her voice, and they exchanged stilted pleasantries. Harold suggested they meet to watch Ethan's upcoming school concert, and he felt a mix of dread and anticipation. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The day of the concert arrived, and Harold could barely contain his nerves. The auditorium buzzed with excitement, parents chatting, kids darting around, all while he sat frozen in his seat, attempting to catch sight of Lily. When Ethan finally took the stage, his tiny hands dancing across the keys, Harold's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and apprehension. He spotted Lily amidst the crowd, her features softened by the flickering stage lights, and for a brief moment their eyes locked. The rush of memories came flooding back, the laughter during family game nights, the echo of Lily's childhood giggles. Here was a chance to mend the fractures of the past. But as the concert ended and polite conversation replaced the music, an insidious tension built between them. A moment of candor cracked through their small talk when Lily, trembling, revealed a secret she had kept buried for years. Harold's mind spiraled as he tried to process her words, an avalanche of disbelief crashing over him. The sweet melodies he cherished were tied to a legacy he never knew existed, unraveling emotions he had buried alongside the silence. His stomach tightened as realization dawned. He might not have known his daughter at all. Days passed, and with each note Ethan played in the following weeks, Harold felt a storm of emotions brewing within him. The memories were no longer just echoes. They were a stark reminder of everything that had been lost, everything that could still slip away. He faced the haunting reality of a fractured family, trapped between the melting harmonies of piano keys and the weight of unspoken truths. Would he find the courage to comprehend this painful new chapter, or would fear and resentment continue to keep them apart? As the music filled his home, Harold grappled with the possibility that reconciliation might demand more than merely reaching out. It might require a reckoning with everything he thought he understood about love, family, and forgiveness. The clock ticked loudly in the silence of Harold's living room, each tick seeming to taunt him with the passage of time. He sat on the edge of the couch, feeling raw after Lily's revelation. It had been too long since he had dared to venture into those uncharted waters of emotions, yet he could no longer ignore the fact that the past was colliding fiercely with the present. Ethan's laughter drifted down the hallway, blissfully unaware of the tension simmering just beyond the door. Harold's heart ached with both pride and regret. His grandson had a gift that seemed to transcend familial complexities, yet it could not erase the distance between him and Lily. It was as if every note Ethan played deepened the chasm rather than mending it, each triumphant sound a reminder of the love tangled up in misunderstandings and unspoken words. The days leading up to the next visit with Lily turned into an internal battle. Each morning Harold sat at the kitchen table, staring at a blank piece of paper before him, a swirling whirlpool of thoughts battling for articulation. He tried drafting a letter, something heartfelt, perhaps an explanation, an apology, or even a plea for understanding, but every line felt trite and insufficient. Shrinking those years of estrangement into a few sentences felt impossible. Was there a way to unpack all that had transpired since the day Lily had stepped away? He dismissed the letter idea again. Maybe it was time to take another approach, confronting the painful truths face to face. Fueled by a newfound determination, Harold decided to confront the hurdles that stood in the way of rebuilding their relationship. He replayed memories of their past discussions in his head, dissecting each moment they had spent avoiding the obvious, carefully pretending not to see the damaged ground beneath them. Would this time be different? Would they finally unravel the layers of misunderstandings? Or would it merely lead to further heartbreak when they stood facing one another once again? The evening of their meeting arrived, and as Harold stood at the threshold of his front door, the weight of uncertainty settled heavily on his shoulders. Preparing for this moment had felt like lifting bricks, first with small gestures of kindness, then evolving into deeper emotional labor. He turned the doorknob slowly, feeling each action reflect the delicate nature of their reconciliation. Arriving on time, he could hear the distant echo of piano keys emanating softly from down the hall. Ethan was practicing again, the serene notes cascading through the air like a gentle reminder of the love that still thrived between them all. He paused, letting the music wash over him, grounding him before things got complicated once more. But as he made his way through the house, he noticed a small stack of folders on the dining table, untouched and unexamined. Curiosity propelled him to the table, and instinct took over as he cautiously opened the folders. His heart raced, and with every page he flipped, a new layer of family secrets unfurled. Interviews, notes, and family trees painted a complicated legacy, truths about Lily's past that he had never understood, connections he hadn't acknowledged. These revelations tossed him back to the living room, overwhelmed by the familiarity of silence, but now mingled with a sense of urgency. He wasn't prepared for this next chapter, but it felt like a terrifying but necessary leap. Could he take this knowledge into his next conversation with Lily? Would it help bring clarity and healing? Or would it rip their fragile connection further apart? The stakes had never felt higher. Harold's heart raced as he anticipated their reunion, and the confrontation that lay ahead. And so he resolved that, as daunting as it was, the time had come to face not only nearing the truth with Lily, but also the buried shadows of the past. Would he be able to bridge those gaps? Or would he discover that some truths could drive them further apart? Harold paced the room, the folders clutched tightly in his hands. He could feel the weight of the secrets they held pressing down on him like an anchor, urging him to dive deeper into the murky depths of his family's past. Each detail he had read intrigued him, even as it tightened the knot in his stomach. The revelation that Lily had been living a life intertwined with hidden truths was overwhelming. He needed to navigate this carefully. One wrong word could plunge them back into a cycle of silence that had enshrouded their relationship for years. As the piano notes from Ethan continued to drift through the air, Harold felt a flicker of resolve ignite within him. That music, so innocent and pure, represented everything he wanted to protect. He needed to create a bridge, one built on understanding and shared history, even if that history was fraught with pain. Was it time to confront the discrepancies that these folders presented? The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. He returned to the living room and turned his gaze toward the window, watching as the summer sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows across the floor. The face of the clock on the wall seemed to glare back at him. Time was slipping away. He thought of Lily, her steadfast gaze, and how it had shifted between warmth and coldness over the years. How often had she tried to reach out only to be met with his own defenses? His reticence to confront his fears had driven a wedge deeper than anything Lily's actions had done. As evening descended, he prepared for their meeting with new intensity. He chose to focus on key aspects from the folders, jotting down notes in an attempt to structure his thoughts. This was about more than relaying facts. It was about opening his heart. The page filled with messy scrawls and fragmented thoughts became a canvas for his desire to reconnect. Yet with every word penned, doubt lingered in the recesses of his mind. Would he come off as accusatory? Would he catch Lily off guard, forcing her into a defensive stance instead of a dialogue? This contemplation shifted his internal narrative. He began to realize that perhaps he wasn't just uncovering Lily's truths, but confronting his own emotional shortcomings. His past, whether he accepted it or not, had contributed to this very moment. There, among the notes about their shared history, was a profound revelation about himself, an acknowledgement of his reluctance to embrace vulnerability. By denying Lily his trust, he had denied himself the opportunity to grow personally and relationally. With this understanding, Harold made a crucial decision. He would approach Lily not as a father entangled in resentment, but as a man willing to own his flaws and learn. The doorbell rang, shattering the silence in his contemplative mood. Heart pounding, he stood frozen for a moment, caught between anticipation and fear. This was the moment. Would he rise to the occasion? The answer danced on the tip of his tongue, as uncertain as the weather outside. Harold opened the door to find Lily standing there, her expression a mixture of hope and apprehension. Before he could speak, the gravity of the moment settled thickly in the air. They hovered on the edge of a precipice, each needing to leap into a space where truth and understanding could foster repair. Harold, she began tentatively, and his heart tightened at the hesitation in her voice. It was now or never. Would he reveal what he discovered, or stay silent in the protective bubble of the past? This was a defining juncture, one that could either salvage their connection or bury it even deeper. The moment of truth loomed, anticipating Harold's next move. Would he grasp this fleeting opportunity, or let it slip away like so many before? In that charged silence, he felt the weight of his choice settle on his shoulders. Lily's eyes searched Harold's expression, seeking assurance or signs of the distance he often maintained. He inhaled deeply, trying to ground himself. The weight of the moment pressed heavily on his chest, transforming the simple act of speaking into a monumental challenge. Time was suspended, each second echoing like a heartbeat, dragging him further into the depths of his uncertainty. "Why don't we sit?" he suggested softly, motioning toward the living room. This wasn't just about the secrets hidden in the folders. It was about establishing a foundation for their conversation, one that prepared them both for the forthcoming revelations. As they settled onto the couch, the air crackled with latent emotion. Harold cast a quick glance at the folders, then back to Lily. The thought of unveiling the truths he had unearthed clawed at him, urging him to make haste. But to rush the moment would be a disservice to their delicate history. "Lily," he started, his voice steadying, "there are things I need to talk to you about, things that could change how we see each other." His heart raced as he navigated the murky waters of vulnerability. She shifted, her fingers entangling nervously in her lap. "What do you mean? Is it about the folders?" The initial dread he felt at her question quickly morphed into clarity. "Yes, but more than that. It's about past choices, the ones that rooted us in silence instead of connection." He knew he had to tread lightly. Anxiety flickered in her gaze, prompting him to continue. He gestured to the mess of notebooks spread across the table as he spoke, wanting his words to encapsulate the urgency within him. He began recounting snippets of her life that he thought he knew, the estrangement, the glimpses of happiness he had witnessed from afar, each moment a missed opportunity. "The truth is, I'm as much a part of these secrets as you are," Harold confessed, the honesty of his past weighing heavily upon him. "I've wrapped myself in anger, in disappointment towards the actions we both failed to acknowledge. But we can choose differently now." He felt his resolve harden like steel. Her expression shifted, all apprehension replaced momentarily by surprise. "You're saying we can admit to everything? After all this time?" "Yes," he whispered, feeling the barrier around his heart begin to crack. "We owe it to ourselves, if not to confront the past, then at the very least to understand it." Lily's fingers stilled, tension coiling tightly between them. The silence hung for a moment, then she took a breath and leaned in. "I've held so much back, Harold." There's something, her voice wavered, revealing the cracks in her composure. "Something I've kept from you." The revelation hung in the air, a palpable tension stirring around them. He could feel the tides shifting, threatening to wash over their lives once again, uprooting all that lay buried. "What do you mean?" he asked, compelled by a mix of fear and curiosity. With those words, Lily's eyes sparked with a newfound intensity. "It's about Ethan," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "There are things you don't know about him, things connected to our family that I never shared." The room fell silent once more. But this time the quiet was bound by the weight of impending truths. Just as Nicholas was a link between them, so too could Ethan become the catalyst for their healing. But at what cost? Harold's breath caught in his throat, knowing that with this new admission, the fate of their relationship rested on fragile threads. He shifted forward, determination igniting within. "We have to face it together, Lily. Whatever lies ahead, we'll face it as a family. No more running away." Her eyes mirrored his intensity, a flicker of hope mingled with fear. Together they stood at the precipice of revelation, their shared history intertwining in ways neither could yet foresee. Yet as she prepared to speak, he sensed the weight of deeper secrets, ones that could potentially unravel everything they sought to understand. Would this new truth fortify their connection, or would it tear them apart? Once more, the path before them twisted with uncertainty, but with a heart committed to growth, Harold felt ready for whatever lay ahead. The door to their past was ajar, and with it hovered the potential for change. Would they step through, or would they remain caught in the shadows of yesteryears? The quiet was broken by the weight of Lily's revelation, but it was her hesitation that gripped Harold more than her words. Ethan. The name reverberated in his mind, conjuring memories of laughter, joy, and the innocent face of a child who had unknowingly been caught in the crossfire of adult decisions. The depth of their family's history was taking a shape he hadn't anticipated, and this moment felt like a suspended note in a song, one that awaited resolution. "Lily," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "if there's something you've kept from me, something crucial about Ethan, please, you need to tell me now." She shifted again, biting her lip, her gaze falling as if the words weighed so heavily she could not bear them. Her reluctance transformed into a silent plea that Harold could not ignore. It was this key moment that could either solidify their relationship or tear them asunder. "I was afraid," she finally replied, meeting his eyes once more, brimming with intensity. "Afraid of what it would mean to you, to me, to Ethan. But I can't keep it hidden. We need to be honest." The gravity of her words rippled through the room, and Harold suddenly felt the push of vulnerabilities rising within him. He had been cautious, both protective and distant, thinking he was safeguarding their hearts from past hurts. But now, as the flickering lights of an uncertain future danced between them, he realized that these very barriers he should have dismantled had only prolonged their suffering. "What is it?" Each syllable tumbled out more like an invocation than a question. Lily took a deep breath, refusing to go back into the sanctuary of silence. "When I was pregnant, I made decisions, the decisions we always thought were made for our happiness. But I didn't tell you everything about your father. It was the one thing I held on to, something I thought would protect us." Her voice shook, each word a chain that tethered them to this tumultuous past. His heart sank at the implication, threads of worry entangling themselves around his core. What decisions? He was not prepared for the fracturing of his long-held beliefs, nor the truth that could shift everything, the very ground beneath his feet. He wasn't he who you thought he was," she breathed, her vulnerability now plain on display. "Ethan's paternity isn't straightforward. It's tied to your family. There's a connection to your mother that has been kept a secret for so long." The revelation struck him like a thunderclap, cracking open the door to a lifetime's worth of secrets. "My mother?" He struggled to process the implications, his mind whirling with the possibilities. "What do you mean?" "Your mother had a different life than you know. Ethan, there's ancestry link that I discovered after the divorce, but I didn't know how even to broach it with you, Harold." Her blue eyes glistened, and for a fleeting moment, Harold saw the insurmountable weight she had carried alone all these years. With each word she spoke, Harold fought against the rising tide of confusion and betrayal. Would this revelation fracture the already fragile identities woven between them? Who were they if what they thought was true was anchored in a deceptive past? He closed his eyes, letting the flood of his thoughts wash over him. A rush of anger and understanding battled within him, a conflicting tempest that pushed against the walls he had erected to shield his emotions. "We owe it to Ethan, to ourselves. We have to embrace this truth, whatever it brings," he said, an unexpected fervor igniting in his voice. Lily nodded slowly, the tension stretching between them transforming into resolve. We'll figure this out together. We have to face it, Harold. We owe that to him, she echoed, her tone matching the determination in his heart. But even as he felt that determination consolidate into a burgeoning hope, there lingered an unspoken truth darting, just out of reach, a deeper layer within their revelation that hinted at greater pain yet to come. As realization sank in, the door to their shared past had swung wide, and all the histories intertwined flooded back like an unrestrained tide. What would they discover next? And what deep-rooted conflicts awaited them as they dove further into the buried secrets of their lineage? Together we will find a path forward, Harold asserted, feeling the flicker of capability grow like a blaze in his chest. But in that moment, an unsettling question brushed against the back of his mind. What would they unearth next that could truly reshape their family forever? The air thickened with unresolved tension as Harold's mind raced. The enormity of Lily's words weighed on his chest, a revelation that had the potential to redefine his entire existence. Unraveling the truth about Ethan's lineage felt like staring into the abyss, and the abyss was staring back, filled with concern and curiosity. Your mother, his voice trailed off, the unfamiliarity of it lodged in his throat like a bitter pill. Each reference to her seemed to pull him further into a storm he was not wholly prepared to face. Harold struggled to grasp the tangled roots of the past that now intertwined with his own future. What does this mean for us? He finally asked, the question heavy with vulnerability. Lily's eyes softened, but the caution in her expression remained. We need answers. If we're going to help Ethan navigate this revelation, we should start with your family history. I think we owe it to him and to ourselves. The idea of searching for the truth filled him with a sense of dread that was almost paralyzing. But the determination in Lily's gaze pushed him into action. He had spent years trying to detach himself from familial ties, but the past was no longer a distant burden. It was a threat looming over their lives. Let us start with your mother, he suggested, feeling the threads of his courage weaving together. Maybe there are records, documents, something to help us understand. Lily nodded, her resolve firm as they reached a silent understanding. Embarking on this quest for truth would require not just courage, but also a willingness to confront the skeletons long hidden in the family closet. Together they would navigate this tumultuous path. But would the journey make them stronger, or tear them apart more completely? Over the next few days, every interaction steeped in those newfound uncertainties felt strained. Lily delved deep into her research, poring over family trees and archives, while Harold braced himself for revelations that were inevitably going to challenge his understanding of family loyalty. One afternoon, as he sifted through old photographs at his parents' house, a picture of a woman with familiar features caught his eye. The resemblance was uncanny. She had the same strong jawline and piercing gaze he saw reflected in the mirror each morning. A chill crept up his spine as he began to connect the dots. This could be the key, a link to the truth that had eluded him for so long. As he examined the date inscribed on the back of the photo, a tremor of excitement coursed through him. Could this be his grandmother, the link that tied Ethan's existence to the broader narrative of their family? Harold realized that he stood on the precipice of uncovering secrets that could dismantle the very foundation of his identity. What other threats would he discover? He decided to confront his father, his heart racing with the decision. "Dad," he began, "there is something we need to talk about." But the moment he uttered the words, he felt the weight of uncountable histories descend upon him. Would his father willingly share the truths lurking in his past? Or would he deflect, plunging Harold deeper into uncertainty? "Don't you remember the stories?" his father asked, looking up from his chair as if sorting through his own memories. "Some truths are better left buried." The room fell silent, and for a moment time stood still. Harold's resolve crumbled under the weight of his father's dismissive attitude, and the question swirling in his mind now roared like a tempest. He needed to know, not just for himself but for Ethan's future. Determined, Harold pushed back against his father's veil of secrecy. "You owe it to Ethan and to me. We deserve to know who we are." As the ripple effects of his words settled into the atmosphere, the tension that had once hung between them morphed into a confrontation he had never anticipated. The stakes soared higher with each passing moment, and Harold knew that somewhere, hidden in the realm of family secrets, was an answer that could redefine everything. But as they stood on the brink of disclosure, Harold couldn't shake an ominous feeling. What if some truths were more damaging than others? What if the real confrontation lay not just in their family history, but within the core of Harold himself? The silence in the room thickened, a dense fog of unspoken words and guarded emotions pressing down on Harold's shoulders. The confrontation hung in the air, palpable and suffocating. His father's brow furrowed, a sign of the internal struggle that Harold had seen so many times before, a flicker of resistance that he interpreted as fear. "Why are you so eager to dig up the past?" his father finally asked, his voice steady but tinged with an uncharacteristic edge. "Some things are better left alone." "Better for whom?" Harold challenged, the flare of his indignation igniting a spark of assertiveness within him. His heart raced, but fear slowly morphed into fierce determination. "This isn't just about us. Ethan deserves to know who he is." Each word felt like a clenched fist striking the fragile walls of his father's defenses. Yet within Harold, a storm of uncertainty brewed. What if revealing the truth only led to chaos? His own instincts urged him to retreat, to insulate himself from the tumult ahead. But the thought of Ethan, navigating his existence with half-truths, compelled him to stand firm. "Do you even know what you're asking for?" His father's voice trembled slightly now, a hidden vulnerability breaking through. "Some truths can shatter everything we've built." The response struck at Harold's core. An image flashed in his mind of Ethan, naive and bright-eyed, gripped by the weight of unknown legacies. Weren't they entitled to unravel the strands that intertwined their lives? He clenched his fist and leaned forward, his resolve crystallizing within. "I don't care what it shatters. I care about what we could build once we know the truth. We can't hide from our heritage. We owe it to Ethan. We owe it to ourselves." His father's gaze dropped, a profound silence enveloping the room as Harold weighed the gravity of what might be revealed. What truths lay buried that could reshape not only his relationship with his father but also his comprehension of self? Harold could feel the walls of convention closing in, ready to collapse under the urgency of his insistence. Taking a deep breath, Harold continued. "Tell me about her. Mom, tell me about her life. All these years I watched you stand by your principles, but now I see those principles putting us in chains. What are we so afraid of?" The crack in his father's armor widened, revealing a man torn between duty to family and personal regret. "Your mother, she lived a life by her own design, but her choices were not without consequences. Consequences I never wanted for you." Harold's pulse quickened. Each word his father spoke entangled with his anticipation, a dance between fear and revelation. There was more, he sensed it. Something pivotal that could alter their paths and untangle the mess of past secrets. "You say I deserve to know," Harold ventured carefully, probing the depths of the conversation. "So tell me, what do I truly have to fear in knowing the whole story?" As if trapped by the weight of his own inheritance, his father paused, a tempest of emotions flickering behind his eyes. This was it, an admission, the unspooling of a carefully guarded truth. Just as Harold braced himself for the revelation, his father raised his gaze, locking them in a stare laced with regret. "I wasn't just protecting you, Harold. I was protecting myself. Your mother, she made decisions that left scars I never thought would resurface for you." Harold felt a knot twist in his gut. Questions surged inside him, relentless and insistent. Each potential answer could open a door, but at what cost? He had already felt the first cracks in his perception of what family loyalty meant, but he was not ready for the complex emotional architecture that lay ahead. Stepping back, he realized they stood not merely at an emotional crossroads, but at the edge of a vast unknown. Looking down at his father, unsure whether he would eventually find strength to divulge all that remained hidden, Harold questioned once again. Could unveiling the truth create a path for healing, or would it lead to a chasm too deep to bridge? The moments dripped by as unyielded potential filled the air. With growing urgency, Harold prepared himself for the truth he felt barreling toward him. Would he become the bearer of burdens long buried, or could he manipulate the revelations into something life-affirming? In a voice barely above a whisper, he urged, "What happened to my mother?" The confession trembled in the air like an omen that could either shatter or shape his destiny. Would the truth set him free, or would it entrench him deeper into despair? The stillness shattered under the weight of unfulfilled promises and unresolved emotions. Harold felt the charged atmosphere press against him, a tangible barrier separating him from the answers he desperately sought. His father's eyes darted, searching for an escape route, as if the shadows of the past were too potent to face head-on. "I didn't want you to carry the burden," his father finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your mother made choices that came with risks I never wanted you to experience." Harold's mind whirled. The cryptic references hung in the air like smoke, thickening his confusion. If this was not merely a family history lesson, what was at stake? He had to know what his father had concealed for all these years. "Tell me," he pressed, his tone firm but edged with desperation. "What did she choose? What risks were so great that truth needed to be suppressed? I can't carry this uncertainty any longer." A twitch of acknowledgement crossed his father's face, as though sparks of recollection were igniting an internal battle. There was an unmistakable weight behind the shield of age he had polished over the years. In that moment, Harold caught a glimpse of the man beneath. This was not just his father. This was a flawed human wrestling with the consequences of someone else's past. "She was special," his father finally replied, his voice cracking under the strain. "Your mother had talents, gifts that set her apart. But with brilliance comes danger. People wanted to control her. When she chose to break free, there were repercussions." Harold's heart raced. Could it be that his mother possessed something extraordinary? A legacy of unfulfilled promise? The narrative began weaving itself into something intricate and profound. "What kind of gifts?" he asked, curiosity laced with a hint of disbelief. "Gifts that could change lives," his father said, meeting Harold's gaze with a newfound intensity. "She had a way of seeing the world, a connection of fire that inspired others but also drew unwanted attention. Her choices were not just for her. They rippled into our lives as well." Unbidden, memories of his mother flooded Harold's mind, fragmented moments he had cherished but never fully understood. They were tinged with nostalgia, colored by the stories of resilience he clung to. The realization that she might have been a figure of such depth disturbed and intrigued him. "Why didn't you tell me this earlier?" Harold asked, frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. "All these years and you kept this hidden? What else is buried along with her?" "Because I was afraid," his father admitted, the vulnerability in his voice palpable. "I feared what you might become if you inherited the burden of knowing." Fear. The weapon that can stifle development. The tether that held Harold back from exploring his inheritance in its entirety. This cycle had to break. He couldn't allow it to ensnare Ethan as well. "Yes, I want to understand," he said, forcing determination into his voice. "I want to face whatever it is together. If I have a legacy as remarkable as you say, I won't shy away from it. I'll embrace it." The tension shifted, a flicker of hope igniting deep within him. In this moment, Harold realized that unearthing the past wasn't merely about exposing wounds. It was about plucking them free, allowing them to heal under the light of truth. But with each step into this newfound purpose, doubts clawed at his mind. The fear of discovery was now mingled with anticipation. As they stood on the precipice of vulnerability, Harold felt a surge of responsibility wash over him. He would do this for Ethan, for their family. Slowly he shifted, preparing for a deeper conversation. "Tell me about her dreams, her aspirations. What did she want for us?" His father's expression shifted again, a mix of pride and sorrow clouding his features as he seemed to prepare for something monumental. And Harold could sense, lurking just below the surface, another truth waiting to be unearthed. Before she left, his father hesitated, eyes welling. "She made me promise to protect this family from anyone who might use her gifts against us. But what she did and why she left, you're about to witness something that could change everything." As the words hung heavy in the air, Harold braced himself, ready to confront whatever reality was about to be unfurled. Did strength lie in the truth? Or would the revelation of his mother's choices threaten the fragile balance they were trying to build? The path was uncharted and fraught with danger, yet his resolve only strengthened, a rebuttal to fear born of daunting truths, leading him further into the complexity of who he needed to become. And with that anticipation simmering in his gut, he leaned forward, his voice steady and resounding with clarity. "What did she actually leave behind? What am I about to face?" Harold felt the air grow thick with uncertainty as his father gathered his thoughts. Every heartbeat counted down the seconds until something momentous or catastrophic would emerge from the silence. The weight of his father's eyes bore into him, as if they were windows to memories locked away and forbidden truths buried in the recesses of time. Your mother was part of something bigger, his father finally said, his voice steadying like a ship finding its balance in turbulent sea. She had a destiny that intertwined with these gifts. People gravitated towards her, willing to exploit her for their own interests. Harold's brow furrowed as he processed the implications of his father's words. Destiny? Exploitation? Could it be that his mother's choices did not just affect their family but perhaps even the world? The questions blossomed in his mind, pushing aside the confusion like a sun breaking through clouds. What do you mean by destiny? What did she foresee? His father hesitated, the look in his eyes shifting as if caught between shadows and light. She was involved with a group, a kind of collective searching for something greater, an understanding that went beyond the ordinary. But when it became clear that it came at a price, she chose family over ambition. A chill ran down Harold's spine. Ambition and sacrifice were such delicate balances to navigate. Was he prepared to confront this duality in himself? A thought loomed in the shadows. Perhaps his mother's choice had trapped him in a cycle he was now expected to break. What happened to this group? Harold asked, the inquiry laced with dread. He feared that the truth could drag him further into the abyss of his family's concealed legacy. They wouldn't let her go easily, his father replied, and the raw emotion in his voice echoed through the room. She had become a beacon, powerful but endangered. They threatened our family, wanting control over her life and by extension all of ours. That's why I tried to shield you from the truth. Harold's chest tightened. He had often wondered about the unexplained rifts in their family, the whispers of something lurking just out of sight. But now the idea of external forces working against them twisted something dark within him. I need to know everything. Enough of this protective veil. What were those gifts really about? What do I have to do now? His father leaned back, wrestling with the consequences of his next words. Before she left, she mentored others like her, people who had the same unusual abilities. And yes, her gifts have passed down to you. Stunned, Harold felt like the earth had shifted beneath him. It was more than just a past he was uncovering. It was a legacy, one that was woven into his very being. Yet it brought forth a more profound fear. Did he possess those gifts too? Would claiming them mean accepting the mantle of danger? Those gifts, his father continued, are not inherently good or bad. They can empower or they can ensnare. And you must decide how to use them or whether to use them at all. The gravitational pull of that decision loomed heavy. Harold could feel the expectation wrapped around their shared bloodline, tugging him towards an uncertain future. Could he even live up to whatever expectations came with being part of this lineage? I must learn to navigate it, Harold said, feeling a flicker of courage igniting within. I won't allow the past to dictate my future. I need to understand what I'm capable of. We can face this together, can't we? His father's expression flickered with something akin to pride, mixed with a tinge of fear for what lay ahead. Yes, he replied softly, but it may require more than you think. There are those who still watch us, waiting. They will not let her legacy die without a fight. Just then the phone vibrated, cutting through the thick atmosphere, jarring Harold from his introspective moment. The time had come to delve deeper into this enigmatic world that awaited him, yet he felt an impending sense of urgency gnawing at him. Who is it? He asked, eyeing his father's pained expression. As he glanced back at the device. Someone from your mother's past, his father replied grimly, an urgency creeping into his voice. We may have just gained new insight into your legacy and a looming threat. Harold's heart thumped in anticipation. The future was no longer abstract. It was tangible and fraught with peril. Let us answer it, he commanded, feeling the adrenaline pulse through him. As his father reluctantly reached for the phone, Harold braced himself. The legacy he yearned to understand was about to unfurl before him. Subscriptions to unknown dangers now entwined with the unpredictable potential of his own gifts. The moment was ripe with tension, hinting at the confrontation waiting just within the murky borders of his family history. What had he just stepped into, and would he have the resolve to face it? The transition from echoes of the past to the unfolding of new possibilities began to crystallize for Harold. The urgency in the air was palpable, the anticipation electrifying. The moment his father pressed the call button, a shiver of determination coursed through Harold. He had spent his life feeling like a bystander to his own existence. Now it was time to step forward and reclaim not just his family history but his rightful place within it. As the phone rang, each sound seemed to resonate within the walls, amplifying his resolve. His father exchanged a glance with Harold, an unspoken agreement that they were in this together. Whatever this might turn out to be, Harold could feel the weight of his lineage pressing against him as the call was answered. "Hello," his father spoke, his voice steady yet edged with tension. There was a brief pause, and Harold gathered every shred of focus he possessed, straining to pick up snippets of the conversation. "What do you mean they've found us?" his father asked, a note of alarm lacing his tone. The stakes had immediately escalated, and Harold felt the floor shift beneath him, destabilizing his previously constructed realm of understanding. "Who are they?" Harold interjected, unable to contain the urgency that compressed his chest. His father put a hand over the phone, signaling him to quiet down, but he could barely remain still. He needed answers. He needed to know how deeply their lives were intertwined with the secrets of the past. In that fleeting moment, he felt like an explorer on the brink of discovery, standing at the edge of dense fog, his heart racing toward the unknown. The knowledge buried in his family legacy was beginning to take form, and he was determined to uncover every facet of it. But with that determination came an awareness of the dangers that accompanied the truths they had only begun to scratch the surface of. His father hung up the phone, his expression grim. "We need to move quickly," he said, urgency flipping the tone of the conversation. "It seems the order your mother left behind is still tied to us. They want her legacy, and that means me and, unfortunately, you." Harold's resolve unfurled alongside dread. He felt the trepidation swirling around them, yet within that fear lay a seed of resolve. Perhaps embracing the formidable gifts and challenges he inherited would offer the power necessary to break the cycle of suppression that had haunted his family for generations. "Whatever we need to do, we're doing it together," he affirmed, the words pouring out, grasping at empowerment. "If they believe they can so control over our family, they've vastly underestimated our strength." His father nodded slowly, the fear in his gaze mingling with admiration. "You're right, Harold. This is about claiming our legacy, and it means standing up not only for it but for the future of Ethan." For the first time, Harold felt a spark of pride in what lay before him. Instead of cowering beneath the weight of expectation, he could rise toward it. They began to discuss strategies, outlining their next steps, powerful choices taking shape from decisions made through clarity, rather than the fog of anger and uncertainty. They scoured through the folders Harold had uncovered, piecing together the history that had been carefully veiled. As they did so, Harold could feel himself transform from a passive observer into a fierce defender of his family, ardently willing to forge a new path. They unlocked records revealing family ties, convoluted relationships, and vestiges of emotion that had festered for years. Each document resonated with echoes of who they were, the legacies woven into their very being. One night, seated across from each other in the dim glow of the kitchen light, Harold sensed the air shift into something welcoming. Each conversation became a stepping stone toward healing, not just between him and Lily, but between him and his father as well. It was as if pieces of an intricate puzzle began depicting a family unified, fighting to unfurl the truth only to realize that strength lay in vulnerability, shared burdens transforming into shared purpose. Over the weeks, they established contact with others from Harold's mother's past, seeking allies who could shed light on their situation, those who both revered the legacy left behind and understood the magnitude of the secrets that loomed. It was a clan, a compilation of honesty and courage beneath the weight of their shared knowledge, a newfound community woven from the strings of trust rather than abandonment. With each connection, Harold felt his confidence solidify. He was no longer merely carrying the burden of his family's secrets. He was uncovering the depth of their significance, working diligently to transform shadows into beacons of growth. He became part of something larger than himself, a network dedicated to reclaiming their family's narratives and protecting what mattered most. In the heart of these endeavors, he reached out to Lily, bridging the distance that had sprawled between them for years. When they met again, it felt electric, every glance igniting conversations that could mend years of estrangement. He spoke to her of their mother's legacy and the urgency of their new beginnings. He invited her to join forces in this journey toward connection. Harold could see the barriers around Lily begin to thaw amidst the prospect of shared understanding. As they studied the truths together, the quiet hurt began to dissipate. She too transformed in this newfound unity, unearthing her own courage as a mother for Ethan. Likewise, Harold embraced the role of a parenting figure, informing and able to guide as they reinvigorated their bond. The trajectory of their relationship accelerated beyond the pain of the past, blending intricacies of familial love with fervent ambition. They moved from strife to a mutual acknowledgement of both their legacies and the responsibility they held for Ethan's future. "Together we can face whatever comes," he assured her one evening, the firelight flickering against their forms as shadows danced amongst the histories once kept silent. Each word fortified their connection further, heralding the promise of a family no longer chained to a past of misgivings. This moment was pivotal. Harold felt the culmination of every step he had taken transform into a powerful affirmation of self-worth. At that moment, he recognized the authenticity of his metamorphosis, a journey of strength shaped from vulnerability, propelled by unconditional love for his family. The pressing sense of clarity and understanding enveloped him, exhilarating and liberating. He no longer viewed himself as a fragile link within a dispirited narrative. Instead, he embraced a legacy of transformation, one fueled by commitment to both family and self that offered a renewed sense of purpose beyond the unforeseen challenges. As he held Lily's gaze, Harold felt profoundly empowered, anchored in who he had become and where he was going. He had achieved a reconciliation not merely with her but within himself. Amid whispers of past shadows and unresolved tensions, he finally emerged, confident, strong and irrevocably driven. This was his personalized awakening, one where the journey didn't end in simply confronting fear and darkness, but rose toward quelling them. And so, taking a deep breath, when he thought of the future, he saw possibilities dancing like light on the horizon. Would he and Lily choose to step into the unknown together? The echoes of the past began to fade as newfound resolve matured within, all leading to a harmonious acceptance of whatever awaited them. The call of their family legacy, once buried in generations of silence, now led them into the light, setting the stage for an exhilarating and empowered journey, a legacy heroically embraced. That night, as the stars glimmered outside their window, Harold resolved to fully engage with the life ahead. His heart brimmed with compassion, a firm belief that united by this truth, they could withstand anything. He felt proud, ready to acquiesce the reality of his identity, cultivating strength in both his successes and failures, a true testament to the spirit of reclamation. Harold achieved what once seemed unattainable. He became the champion of his family's narrative, embracing everything he once feared. And now there was nothing he couldn't face. Those sleepless nights filled with self-doubt were gone, replaced by a passionate commitment to love and truth. The journey led back to family, to unity, to the promise of a rewritten story. It became undeniable this path was theirs to cultivate, fortified by understanding, and the courage to harmonize their legacies. And with that realization, Harold felt the thrill of obsessive urgency lacing his veins, the breath of new beginnings whispering a daring invitation toward a future they would not shy away from embracing. Now it was time to share their triumph with the world. If you felt this empowering journey resonated with your spirit and ignited courage in your life, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Now is the moment to show your support, so leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Please comment your reactions and theories about this transformative ending. Your voice matters so much. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this message of hope and healing. Only true fans of personal transforming stories understand the significance of standing together through these actions.